It was the summer of 1961 when my father caught a glimpse of my mother walking into a hardware store in the tiny town of Easton, Minnesota, population 300. Dad was 19, Mom was just 17. And when he saw her that day, he decided to marry her, just like that. I've seen pictures of my mom from the 1960s, and it's not hard to understand why my dad made this decision. Mom was a knockout. And she was walking into a hardware store. What's not to like? So my dad sent my mom a short, handwritten letter asking if she'd like to see a movie with him. Their first date was June 24th, 1961, to see a Danish war movie called The Steel Claw. I told my dad I thought it sounded like a B movie, and he said, it wasn't quite that good. 5.5 years later, my parents got married, and then they embarked on the adventure of a lifetime. A 3-year honeymoon on Okinawa, while my dad served in the U.S. Navy JAG Corps during the Vietnam War. My dad was nervous about this move. It was the first time either one of them had ever left the country. My mom had never been on a commercial airplane before, and yet she willingly hopped on a flight across the Pacific with just a suitcase and a spare light bulb, ready to see the world. I don't really know why the light bulb, but she found it useful. I often wonder what that time was like for them. As a young girl, I usually passed up opportunities to see slideshows of their adventures, but now I would jump at the chance to see the pictures of their trips to Hong Kong, Bangkok, Tokyo, Taipei. A few weeks ago, I saw a number of newly discovered pictures of them in their early 20s exploring Okinawa as newlyweds. Wow. My parents were a big influence on me. I learned from their senses of humor, their fairness and generosity, their openness to the world, and their genuine interest in making friends with people from other cultures. But a few years ago, I started to worry that stories about their amazing lives would die with them. I worried that, in my grief, I would fail at attempts to describe them adequately. And then I started worrying that no one would know about all the privately wonderful moments that only our family experienced. My dad's brother, William, died about 5 years ago. I didn't know William all that well, because Midwestern Germans are not all that talkative. We're especially not very forthcoming about ourselves. We think it's better to let others discover us. But as I sat through William's memorial service and listened to the eulogy, I wondered why I had never really gotten to know him. And that got me thinking that it would devastate me if I lost someone I loved, and I hadn't taken the time to reflect on what that person meant to me while he or she was alive. If I didn't commemorate my parents, for example, if I didn't write about them while their jokes and quirks and endearing qualities were still fresh in my mind, if I didn't begin to process and communicate specifically why I loved them, would I be able to live with myself if they died? Now, this may sound like a morbid topic, but it's actually not about that at all. It's about life. It's about living a life of appreciating the here and now. It's about setting yourself up to remember without regret. It's about giving yourself an opportunity to have better relationships with the people you love. My dad has been carrying my mom's graduation photo in his wallet since 1966. When I was 9, I asked him, "Who do you love most?" Because I thought for sure he'd say me. But he actually answered without hesitation, "Your mother." He explained that while he loved us kids very much, Mom always came first. It may sound strange, but I knew at the time that there's nothing more bonding, more secure, than hearing your father say exactly that. Even when I was a kid, it made sense. This wasn't romantic love he was talking about. This was commitment love. This is the kind of love where we kids learned how to be fiercely loyal to the people we care about, just as my parents are to each other. And so today I speak in memory of my parents, who are very much alive and well and living in Minnesota, wishing they could join me here today. We don't say so very often in our family, but I love them. And I say this now, urgently, today, because you never know when the opportunity to remember without regret may disappear.